Hello, everybody. Welcome to CripChat, your weekly podcast for everything disability. Today, I have with me Jonathan Shar, Ibby
Hello.
Amy, myself, David D, and a special guest today, Anja. Please like and share. If you got any comments, please put it in the comment box. Over to you, Ibby.
Thank you, David. Welcome, Anja. It's excellent to have you on our show. How are you feeling?
I'm good. How are you all? It's such a pleasure to be here.
We're fine,
Thank you. The
thank you.
pleasure's ours. We're all good, all good. Angela, let's get started. Angela, please tell us a bit about yourself.
So, my name's Anja. I'm based on the Sunshine Coast up
So,
in Queensland, and I'm a disability advocate and a social entrepreneur.
so we're saying your name wrong. It's Anya.
Yeah, I've heard everything under the sun, so I just respond when I hear something similar to Anya. Yeah.
Uh, And
No,
and
sorry about
uh,
that.
I've seen what's called I've seen names like Tanya spelled with J.
Yeah, it's
So
starting to become more common.
uh,
Well, sorry about the mispronunciation, Anya. But thank you for being on the show. So, Anya, how did growing up with a disability relate to your self-esteem as well as your perception of beauty?
So I was born with my disability and I had quite extensive reconstruction and reconstructive surgeries at 5 hours old and then again in my early years. And so I never really had the opportunity to see my body without scars. It is something that I've just never seen. So I think knowing that I was different to other people and seeing my body differently, I definitely had the appreciation for difference and diversity, but it didn't really affect my self esteem because I've never had anything to compare it to personally. And I think what I realized was beauty comes in all different forms. And the beauty that I recognized most in my life was the beauty that came from inside from other people. Because I know that I could dress up and look fine, but I know that I can also look very sick sometimes.
Interesting. Interesting. Thank you
well,
for sharing, Anya.
Anya, I'm visually impaired, so sometimes when you're visually impaired, you don't see people from the outside. You see them from the inside.
Yeah. And I think that it makes such a difference when you can actually just have a connection with someone. And I believe like in energy, and I think when you feel good energy from someone, to me, that's beauty more than anything else.
For sure, for sure. Beauty is on the inside. That's what counts. Thank you for sharing, Anya. So, Anya, there seems to be a period of time where you were silent about your disability. What is it like to have to mask your disability and hide part of your identity?
Growing up, I was quite open about my disability until I was probably about 6 years old. There was a period of time where I didn't really know that my life was different to other people's in terms of going in and out of hospital a lot and having to do certain medical procedures every day. And when I realized that, I really embraced that difference and I'd speak quite openly. But I started to realize that there were times I was treated a little bit differently. And I just wanted to, I guess, fit in and be accepted and be part of what felt like the norm at that time. And I then only started disclosing my disability to people who were friends or people who were close to me. It's not like I necessarily felt shame or didn't want to talk about it, but I didn't want people to perceive me differently. So when I was halfway through grade 11, I got really, really sick and I started going in and out of hospital a lot and I ended up having to leave school. And it was through that that I realized that I actually did have a disability. It wasn't something I was born with that was going to change throughout my life. And I actually need to start to acknowledge that I do need accommodations at times because I was denying myself a lot of things that I needed to actually access places. And I felt like because you couldn't see my disability from the outside, I wasn't worthy of the support, or deserving of the support. So I think that was really my journey until I realized that me having the support I need doesn't have to take away from someone else having the support that they need. I think that's something that a lot of people with invisible disabilities can struggle with quite a bit.
Thank you for sharing, Anya. Look, I wish I understood disability earlier. Was there a moment you started to understand you have a disability? And how has that changed how you live?
Like I've mentioned, when I was born, I had a disability, but it was more framed to me as a medical condition that you receive your medical treatment for, and that ultimately you're fixed by the medical system. And for me, it was really anatomical in the way that I was fixed. I was reconstructed, so you're kind of thought to be set back on the right track. And that's really what I assumed. I just assumed that I'd live a very, very normal life, but have just more contact with the healthcare system. But then when I was halfway through grade 11 and I got so incredibly sick, I became really fearful for my future because I wasn't getting any better. And I was constantly searching for answers. I was constantly searching for a point in time or a medication or something that would be able to shift things for me so I would be better. And what I came to realize as things weren't really changing for me, and the conversations I was having with doctors, was that this was actually really part of my disability that I was born with. It's part of how I grow. It's part of the complications from when I was younger. And it was then when I realized there wasn't a point that I was getting better, that actually what I was experiencing was that lifelong disability. And I think perceiving myself in that way added a sense of calm and a sense of acceptance from what my situation is. But I think that it has also impacted a lot of my relationships and experiences in my life because I've had to take a path that it feels like not many other people have taken, even though a lot of people have taken their own individual path. It's just not necessarily always visible.
And yeah, did you start looking at when you realized you had a disability? Did you start looking at yourself a bit different?
I think I did actually. I think I was kinder on myself, really how I was speaking about before, in that I did need accommodations and I did need things to make my experiences more equitable. When I realized I had a disability, it felt like actually there's a label for this that people can understand a little bit better. So they can help to understand me a little bit better, and I can start to actually get more of the support that I need rather than feeling like I don't fit in anywhere. Because then I felt like I could fit into the disability community.
Interesting. Yeah, no, thank you once again for sharing, Anya. So, Anya, how did you first get interested in modeling?
It was quite a funny story because I was about 14 and my mum told me that I wasn't ladylike enough. So she sent me to
Oh,
deportment classes, and the compromise was that I'd do deportment classes and modeling together. And so I started to learn a lot more about the industry and I became really interested in it. And shortly after, I met with an agency and everything was looking like it was going well. And then they asked me if I had any scars. And because I'd grown up with that perception that scars aren't a bad thing, and we were starting to see a little bit more diversity in the modeling industry, I proudly showed them my scars. And in that room, we basically had a conversation that I would never be able to model professionally because of the scars that I had on my stomach. Because a lot of the time, even if you're going to jobs where I'd be, clothed and have my scars covered, you usually do those auditions or castings in a bikini, and they thought that that just wasn't acceptable. So that was quite a knockback, and it made me reconsider the direction that I was going in. I'd applied to some other agencies and hadn't really heard back. And so I decided to start focusing more on fashion because I was really passionate about it. So I learned how to sew, I learned how to bead, and I started developing little collections and, adapting clothes to make it more unique. And I then took photos in all the clothes and had those photos as a little modeling portfolio, and ended up about a year later from that time that I was told I couldn't model, meeting with an agency that had just started in Brisbane a few years before. I was casting with them in my bikini and I managed to land that contract. And from there, it just really took off because I said yes to every opportunity.
You took the opportunity to get to you. That's awesome. Good
And
stuff.
yeah, I believe scars are like tattoos. A lot of people like tattoos, but scars can be an attraction too.
Definitely. I really love my scars. I think it's shocking that people want to hide them and cover them in the fashion industry at times. So I think they're beautiful. They tell a story.
They tell a story better than
It
ones
sure
that
does.
you, that actually people draw on themselves. They don't tell a story like a scar does.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. No, good point, David. Anyway, Anya, looking well versus not actually feeling for being well. Behind the smile, so that's quite, I believe, coming from you. How do you manage expectations, energy, burnout, coming to terms with that balance?
I have a complicated relationship with burnout. I think I feel like I'm often always on the edge of burnout. And I think a lot of people can relate to that, especially with just everything that's been going on globally over the past few years. But it's very challenging for me, I think, looking well but not feeling like it on the inside, because often when other people aren't perceiving me as being unwell or necessarily needing the support that I do, it often makes me just mask and act like I'm okay. And that's often to my own detriment. So I might leave the house one day and have a speaking engagement or a few meetings. And I'll turn up in those meetings masking my pain, masking my discomfort, masking the fact that I'm unwell. But I find that often once I come home, I crash and then I can't really do things for a few days. So I'm definitely not someone that has the answers on how to balance life, because I think that when we also think about people that are living a really fulfilled life, and this might be contentious, it's not very balanced. It's usually focused in one area quite heavily, where people start to excel and really deepen their knowledge and experience and perception. So I don't think I live a balanced life, and I don't think I ever will be. But hopefully, I can I can make it work this way.
Yeah, no, it's all good. It's and how we manage our burnouts. That I guess that's what's important as well.
Absolutely.
But yeah, look, thank you for sharing, Anya. So Anya, how has your relationship to beauty standards changed over time?
I've grown up in the time where like Instagram was introduced, maybe when I first started high school. So I've constantly been bombarded with all these images of incredibly beautiful people, like aesthetically beautiful people. And I think there's a lot of comparison that can come in. But I feel like the more that we are expanding our reach actually through social media, the more that people are being honest and, showing the real and raw side, and showing that there's so much more than what they appear. Seeing these influencers that were previously seeming appearance driven actually talking about their lives, I think just adds to that idea of beauty that I was telling you about before, that it went from being something of, you have to be this size and have your eyes spaced in this way and be symmetrical, or whatever it might be that the modeling industry told me looked beautiful or that I need to look like, to really appreciating that inner beauty. And really, I don't subscribe to any beauty standard now.
Yeah, it's all good. Thank you for sharing, Anya. Anya, tell us about the Women with Disabilities Entrepreneur Network.
So, due to my disability throughout my life, I came to a stage where I realized mainstream employment wouldn't work for me. I was in a role and I had 3 abdominal surgeries in 8 months, was in and out of hospital, and I didn't even have enough sick leave to cover my hospital appointments, let alone the times that I was actually sick. And I found those adaptations and accommodations in the workplace just couldn't really work for the situation that I was in, where I was experiencing so many bouts of illness and it was quite constant. So I went into service-based business and started a talent agency for lived experience called Champion Health Agency. And we were placing people in speaking roles, research, co-design, creating strategies. And I found so much fulfillment in this work as one of the ways to increase social and economic participation. But I was really challenged because I'd go into hospitals still a lot. And when I was unavailable and I couldn't just say show up on stage and speak, I wouldn't get paid. And same with any of the people that I was representing. If they couldn't show up on the day, they would not get paid for just some of the nature of the work that we were doing. So I wanted to try and look at a way that we could support businesses to happen where people would still be able to earn income even if they were sitting in a hospital bed. And that's really where the Women with Disabilities Entrepreneur Network came from, because I thought if we're able to create a business ecosystem and then really invest in product-based businesses that can be sold into other businesses and corporations, but also direct to consumer, then we can start to spread some really positive messaging about disability in all different ways and all different sectors. So we set up the network, we're onboarding a business directory, we have some great mentors, and we've made quite a significant investment in our first startup under the network, which is Shit Happens. And so it's 100% recycled toilet paper made in Australia. And our reason for going to toilet paper was because it can access any door. Like everyone needs toilet paper. And it can access places that people with disability can't yet. So we're really trying to do our work in that way. And have had some really great first mover corporates come and support us.
That's interesting. Very interesting. Anja, discuss the importance of entrepreneurship in fostering a more inclusive society for people with disabilities.
As I'm sure you're all aware, and like everyone listening is aware, there's so much discrimination towards people with disability, or there's that perception that we're not capable. I think I saw some research come out recently and it said 85% of people surveyed view people with disability as being incompetent. So I think entrepreneurship is a way that we can actually really start to change that and shift the narrative. And the most exciting part is it's already happening. People with disability are 43% more likely to be entrepreneurs, but the challenge is we don't often see them, we don't know them, we don't know how to buy from them. And I think being able to actually create businesses that scale and that big corporations can buy from, that people have in their households when you go and visit, will really start to shift the perception of people with disability actually being capable to create incredible change, but also build intergenerational wealth. Because I don't know many rich disabled people, and that's really sad, because we should be able to start to build this wealth in the ways that we want. And I think it's so much more about building disability careers rather than building disability employment.
No, well said, Anja. No, I totally agree. So, Anja, how have you used Shit Happens? Well, I love that name. To take
Thank
back
you.
the power that, all good, to take back the power that incontinence has robbed you of.
It became a really funny story being the incontinent girl that goes into toilet paper and owns a toilet paper company. And I still go into my doctor's offices today and they know that I have challenges with incontinence and they ask me what I do. And I say I own a toilet paper company and we have a really big laugh. But what I realized through my advocacy was 1 in 4 people in Australia actually experience incontinence. But no one wants to talk about it. It's uncomfortable, it's stigmatized. And growing up with this incurable bowel incontinence that I knew I never would be able to change really caused me to actually start speaking more openly about it. And for anyone that's experienced incontinence, sometimes it feels really degrading or like you're losing your humanity. And for me, it's shit, honestly. So when this would happen, I'd just say, shit happens, and you'd have to be down for a second, but then get on with your day. So there's that funny little anecdote within our name that not that many people actually know.
No, it is what it
Yeah,
is.
your toilet paper, are they 3-ply or 2-ply?
We have 3-ply. So we have a 3-ply that's 300 sheets, So that's basically extra length from what you get on the supermarket. And then we have
Yeah.
a 360 sheet 3-ply, which is double length. But we also do 2-ply for some of our commercial buyers.
I might have some ideas of what to put on there.
That'd be awesome.
Now, also, we're welcome to your ideas, David. Thank you very much. And thank you, Anja. That's
And I'll probably
awesome.
tell you later. Or do you want me to give
Perfect.
you ideas now?
No,
Oh,
we'll talk about it later, David.
later.
Thank
Okay.
you. So, Anja, back to the question. Tell us about your involvement of helping build co-design frameworks for inpatient care in health services.
When I started advocacy in the health services, I really wanted to be able to contribute as much of my lived experience as I could to create really positive change. And as I started engaging in different ways, I started to be aware that at times people with lived experience have very little power in the decision making process. And sometimes they have really high power in the decision making process. And what I started to learn was disability and health were kept really quite separately. And of course, in the disability community, we know the saying, nothing about us without us, and we use it quite often. And when I was engaging in the health service, they didn't really know that saying as much as we do in the community. So we're starting to use that saying and work out what does that actually mean in actionable steps within a health service environment. And what that actually meant to a lot of people was co-design. So actually doing something together with equal decision making to try and build solutions from the people that are affected by them. I had the opportunity to co-lead a development of the co-design framework for Metro North Health, which is the largest health service up in Queensland. And it was just an incredible experience. We spoke to over 120 people with lived experience, people in research and healthcare management, clinical staff. And we brought together all their insights and developed a framework that anyone can use and anyone can access, so it doesn't contribute to the power differentials of someone holding the tools in how to do something and other people not knowing.
Interesting. Thank you, Tom. So, Tanya, in relation to co-design, from your work, where have you seen the best example of co-design?
I feel like the development of the co-design framework was a really genuine co-design process that we led. And I say that because we were ready to start with a blank slate. We didn't want to have to bring in, other people's preconceived ideas of what this had to be. And so we made massive changes very quickly. So first of all, we had to define what co-design is. And if you look in the academic literature, there's so many different definitions and none of them are agreed upon. So instead of choosing one of those definitions or trying to merge them all together, we went out to the community and out to the different stakeholders and asked them what co-design meant to them. And then we started using those things to build a definition that everyone agreed upon. So it really captured the sentiment of what co-design was. And then we also had people wanting, either like a booklet or something that goes on an internal intranet page as what this co-design framework would be. But we then made the decision that that wasn't something that actually worked for the community, because that's what we're hearing from the community. So we made it an online accessible framework. So I think that process of co-leading it with me with lived experience and a health service person, and then engaging much more broadly, was really genuine co-design.
Cool. Now that's awesome. So, Anya, how has your disability involved a sense of strength?
I do feel really strong because of my disability. And that might seem a bit counterintuitive, but I've got through so much in my life. And in all of my hard moments that I have, I know that I've actually been through much harder and got through. I think it's really shown me how capable we can be, how independent we can be of thought. I don't necessarily have a lot of independence in other ways, despite it might being perceived that way. But really having the strength to be able to think for yourself, create your own ideas, create your own dreams, not really knowing what's possible, but then actually being able to execute them. I think it's just shown me what's possible, and that makes me feel really strong.
No, that's awesome. Good on ya. You continue the great work that you do, Anya.
Thank
So,
you.
Anya, what? All good. Anya, what makes you feel the need to speak up about your lived experiences?
There were
Sorry,
two
candidly. Sorry.
That's okay. There were a few points that really made me want to speak up. So, growing up, I had parents that were told so many times that they didn't know what the future looked like for me. When my mum was diagnosed with my condition in pregnancy or told that her child has my condition, she was so devastated and she couldn't find anyone that she could look to as some sort of guidance for what the future would look like and be like. And so I wanted to be able to give parents like my parents hope that their child can have a really good future, despite the diagnosis that they might be given, that life's so much more than that. But then when I went through that period of a lot of illness, I ended up resurfacing and accessing some Facebook pages for people with my condition. And it was the first time that I'd really connected with the community, but I felt like I needed to talk to other people who were like me to understand if what I was going through was normal within our context. And when I was looking through all of those posts, I eventually got courage to post my own. And I told them a little bit about my story. And I just had such a positive response. And from that, I found so many other people with my condition that, you know, were placing, I guess, limitations on themselves at times, like they're too fearful to leave the house because of incontinence, which is a really real concern. And it's something that I have to process every day. But I wanted to be able to change the trajectory and open up what's possible. And I thought that if I had to be the one to get rid of some of my like privacy to be able to make a difference and make other people feel seen and heard, then that's what I was going to do.
It's good that you can show people and leading by example. Because a lot of people are afraid to do things because it's unheard of, and they don't know someone that can do it.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more.
Yes,
So,
we'll now go to our final thoughts. Anya, what are your final thoughts with those who may be on a similar journey?
So I just want to encourage people to know that really anything is possible and that all of us are winging it, if not all the time, at least most of the time. I recently received the Excellence in Women's Leadership Award from Women's and Leadership Australia. And I just want to encourage other people to know that this was never an award that I expected I would ever win. And it's acknowledging a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes, but I want it to be shown as encouragement for other people that you can achieve what you want to achieve, you can do what you want to do, and you can make an impact that you want to make. It sometimes just might have challenges and roadblocks, but nothing that's worth having comes easy.
That's awesome. David, Jonathan, do you have anything you wanna
Well,
add?
my final thoughts are, I think a lot of people don't know their potential until they try. And if you don't try, you're never gonna know. Always try your boundaries, and then you'll get to the higher, the better, what's word, further heights and further things you can do, and then you'll start to gain confidence. You're not gonna gain confidence if you don't try.
Definitely. We just don't know what we're capable of until we try, like you've said.
True, true. Well said. Jonathan, anything you wanna add?
my final thought is we need to push the limits of what society puts on us. if we want to do something, we should find a way.
Definitely. Really beautifully put.
Yeah, well said, John. Yeah, look, I'd like to thank you very much, Anya, for being on this show and for being a powerful role model for, I guess, women with disability out there. And, being in the music sector, that's amazing. Keep up the great work that you do. Thank you very much, Anya. And we look forward to having you on the show in the future.
Thank you so much. So lovely to be interviewed. Thank you for sharing your platform with me, and thank you for the great work that you're all doing too.
You're welcome.
To
And
everyone out there, you've been watching CripChat, your weekly podcast on everything disability. Join us next week as we talk about more issues related to disability. Goodbye for now.
Bye.